All right, so let's get it straight. We're 62 hours away from shutting down the government of the United States of America, and Republicans are launching an impeachment drive based on a long debunked and discredited lie. This isn't partisan warfare America's seeing today. It is chaotic infighting between Republicans and Republicans. It's MAGA versus extreme MAGA, as if anybody in the real world could tell the difference between the two. What a staggering failure of leadership. Speaker McCarthy's invertebrate appeasement of the most fanatical elements of his conference now threatens the well-being of every American. Now, some people think the members of the GOP caucus aren't interested in anything logical. They just want to see the world burn, as Alfred Pennyworth put it in The Dark Knight. But I see a method in the madness. A week ago, Donald Trump posted a comment saying that a government shutdown, quote, is the last chance to defund these political prosecutions against me and other patriots. You get it? To delay justice, Donald Trump would cut off paychecks to a couple million service members and federal workers and furlough more than 1 million workers and pay them later for having not worked. They would halt food assistance to millions of moms and kids and keep NIH in my district from enrolling any more patients in life and death clinical research trials.
Like many Democrat-run crime-ridden cities, Washington is now notoriously unsafe. Local leaders have utterly failed in their duty to protect residents and visitors.
The passionate statement of the gentleman from Georgia, I wish I had seen equal passion on behalf of public safety in the District of Columbia on January 6th, when 150 of our officers were violently assaulted by a mob that he came to describe as engaging in a normal tourist visit.
Look, I'm not from Maryland. I don't live around the Beltway here where everything's just fine. I live up in Pennsylvania where $1 billion or $1 million is a lot of money to hardworking people that get up in the dark at night and head out to work.
I did hear my colleague from Pennsylvania make some sort of disparaging remark about Maryland and about how he didn't live in Maryland, where apparently we don't understand the value of money. Well, when our capital came under attack by violent insurrectionists and those who were chanting, "Hang Mike Pence," and who were determined to overthrow the 2020 presidential election, there were hundreds of police officers who came from Maryland to join the Metropolitan Police Department and the Capitol officers in defense of the Capitol of the United States. So I take umbrage at any insinuation that the people of Maryland need to take a backseat to anybody in terms of the defense of the principles of this country. So I would thank Mr. Perry for a correction about that. Look at what the Republicans are saying about the Republicans today on Capitol Hill as we live through all of the reverberations of the chaos caucus. So, the world is burning around us. We're fiddling. We don't have a strategy. That's Representative Steve Womack, Republican from Louisiana. We're fractured, says a member of this committee, Representative Anna Luna from Florida. It's not a normal majority, says Representative Tom Cole, Republican of Oklahoma. Here's Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene talking about the Republicans. This conference is absolutely broken. Here's Kevin McCarthy, who used to be Speaker before he was deposed by the Republicans. This is embarrassing for the Republican Party. It's embarrassing for the nation. Here's Representative David Joyce from Ohio, who probably sums it up best. We're a party that can't govern. Here's Representative Troy Niels from Texas. We're a broken conference. Representative Tom Emmer said if it were a family, quote, we'd be the most dysfunctional family on the face of the planet. Here's Representative Austin Scott, who ran briefly for Speaker in the speakership sweepstakes taking place right now. It makes us look like a bunch of idiots. And Representative Mark Alford from Michigan, another Republican, we are a ship that doesn't have a rudder right now. So it would be great if we could actually get a Speaker of the House and a functioning House of Representatives so we could deal with these issues.
I refuse to allow the erosion of our Second Amendment rights to further disarm our population, making us less safe as a further push toward communism, because that's what happens.
They say, we want to repeal the Second Amendment. Mr. Speaker, we don't want them to repeal the Second Amendment. We want them to read the Second Amendment. Because the Second Amendment would ask us why We are allowing people to go into elementary schools, Walmarts, supermarkets, churches and synagogues all over America with AR-15s, enabled sometimes with the stabilizing brace, as in Dayton, Ohio, Boulder, Colorado, Colorado Springs, Nashville, Tennessee, and assassinate our people. Our colleagues embrace what's called the insurrectionist theory of the Second Amendment. Our colleague, Mr. Gates, says the Second Amendment is, quote,
about maintaining within the citizenry the ability to maintain an armed rebellion against the government if that becomes necessary.
Our colleague Chip Roy says the Second Amendment was designed purposefully to empower the people
to be able to resist the force of tyranny used against them to step over their natural rights given to them by God.
Congresswoman Boebert says the Second Amendment, quote,
it has nothing to do with hunting, unless you're talking about hunting tyrants, maybe.
Well, this theory is completely debunked and destroyed by the text of the Constitution itself and by Supreme Court precedent. And yet their theory of the Second Amendment is killing Americans. Thank you, Chair McClain, for calling the hearing, and also Ms. Porter and Mr. Mfume for their thoughtful remarks today. Look, the American people want a tax system that is simpler, fairer, and more responsive. And I wish that we could have hearings on each of those. I mean, just to take a look at simplicity, for example, I've lived in foreign countries where they don't have a multi-billion-dollar business in H&R Block and all of these companies that are trying to help people understand their taxes. And most people's taxes, 90% of the people's taxes could be done in 15 minutes or 20 minutes, which is what it's like in countries around the world. We should be having a hearing about why we have a $10 billion a year plus business in helping people do what the government should be helping them do instead. But what we've got is one more hearing to beat up on the IRS as part of the program to deconstruct the administrative state, as Steve Bannon promised at the beginning of the Trump administration, and we're right in the throes of it. One can only regard with amazement that any member of the Republican Party today would lecture the commissioner of the IRS about efficiency or organization or anything else. Now, the implementation of the IRA shows that providing adequate resources to the IRS dramatically improves services to our people and the effectiveness of the overall mission. In the 2023 filing season, IRA investments allowed the IRS to create and adopt digital tools to process tax returns more efficiently. The agency greatly improved in-person service, service over the telephone, and online customer service. But we know a lot more needs to be done. I have a constituent who came in to see us in August. He and his wife had filed their taxes in April. They got their refund from the state of Maryland in 2 weeks. After 5 months and multiple attempts to get the IRS to send their tax refund, they still couldn't get it. They reached out to my office in desperation, and we were able to work with the taxpayer advocate to make it happen. But nobody should have to go through that experience of bureaucratic lethargy and frustration like that. But we know that you're making improvements. It's moving in the right direction, but you're writing against a background of decades of deliberate underinvestment. Well, the IRA is also making administration of the tax system more equitable. You're hiring experts who can audit and enforce tax laws against big corporations and ultra-wealthy filers who've been able to get away with a lot before that. Commissioner Werfel, how has the IRA allowed IRS to crack down on tax cheats? Is the investment the American people have made paying off in terms of the money we're getting back?
It is, Ranking Member Raskin, it absolutely is. And we are putting the money to work today to take a variety of different steps. We're increasing the number of audits on our largest corporations using analytics that we've invested in to make sure that we select the right corporations that are the highest risk of shielding income inappropriately. We've increased the number of audits on complex partnerships, something that GAO has pointed out, how anemic our partnership audit rate is. And again, we're using invested new tools and analytics to make sure that we're understanding the types of trends necessary to know where those complex partnerships are that are actually evading taxes, so we improve the efficiency of our audit. And as mentioned earlier, we've launched an effort to get back taxes from millionaires and billionaires. And we've identified 1,600 high priority targets, if you will, of millionaires and billionaires. And we've already collected in the early months over 100 million in back taxes. All of that is IRA money being put to work. And as you mentioned, on the services side, we have a lot of work to do. Building block by building block, we are making changes to our services to make that story that you told a thing of the past.
Thank you very much. I yield back, Madam Chair.
Americans are paying more for everything because of left-wing extremist policies. Instead of addressing these major economic concerns head-on, the Democrat solution to inflation is to keep on spending.
I just wanted to educate our distinguished colleagues that Democrat is the noun. When you use it as an adjective, you say the Democratic member, or the Democratic solution, or the Democratic plan. And so I assume it's a good faith grammatical error the first few times. But after people are corrected several times and they continue to say it, it seems like it's an act of incivility, as if every time we mentioned the other party, it just came out with a kind of political speech impediment like, oh, the Banana Republican Party, as if we were to say that every time we mentioned the Banana Republican member or the Banana Republican plan or the Banana Republican Conference. But we wouldn't do that. They take their shocking nihilism about what's true and what's false, and they convert it to this entire Congress. And it all starts, of course, with January 6th. And before that, the presidential election. All starts with a big lie. Donald Trump's big lie. Well, they say, well, who knows? Maybe he won, maybe he didn't. You say Joe Biden's president, we say Donald Trump's president. Nonsense. 60 federal and state courts rejected every claim of electoral fraud and corruption that they put forward. 60. Federal and state courts rejected every claim. They don't have a single court that ever ruled in their favor. Donald Trump lost that election by more than 7 million votes, 306 to 232 in the Electoral College. So then their big lie now has to stretch all the way over January 6th. We have to disbelieve the evidence of our own eyes, of our own ears. We saw them come and descend upon this chamber, this Congress, wounding and injuring 150 of our police officers, breaking people's noses, breaking people's fingers, putting people in the hospital. And already they're back on the news with big lies saying, no, 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 it was a tourist visit. Like these real tourists up here who have to come and watch representatives in the United States Congress say there's no difference between truth and lies.